Okay, guys, so this video is going to be about the inherent misery of work. Now, um, for those that don't know, inherent basically means something that is a part, like something that's like a crucial part of something else, right? So, like if you think of watching TV or something, or actually, fuck it, watching YouTube videos, right? Ads are an inherent part of most YouTubers, right, to make money, right? That's one example, right? Another thing may be an inherent part of of a train, right, or a bus are the wheels, right? So that's basically what I mean when I say inherent, right? I'm just giving some examples so you guys know what I'm talking about. Now, what I want to say in regards to this is this video mainly applies to white collar workers because that's what I have more experience with. But this can also be applied to definitely blue collar workers and mostly to people that work from home as well. Although if you're lucky enough to work from home, the physical what I mean by the physical aspects of this is what I'm going to talk about later. But definitely the psychological and the social dynamics of the stuff I'm going to talk about now definitely applies to you having to deal with shitty supervisors, although not as much. Definitely shitty managers. You're still having to meet those quotas, those timelines, and you know you're still under the same pressure that you're still under the same pressure that the rest of us are under. So I want to start this off by saying that first of all, work is slavery. No matter what position you're in, no matter even if you're lucky, so-called lucky enough to have a career, you know, to have a very high-paying job, to have decent co-workers, to actually have good co-workers, good managers, good supervisors. Although that basically never happens. It depends on what part of the world you're in, but in Britain, the US, most of Europe, it's not. Most people aren't that lucky. Now, work is slavery. Why? Because you're giving up your time, which is arguably your most precious commodity in this life, right? We only have one life that we know of, and then that's it, right? But you're arguably giving up your most precious commodity for what? For fucking money. And what do you need that money for? To survive, right? And I'm gonna make a video soon, right? Because I've only got like a couple more days to like pump out uploads, but I'm gonna make a video as soon as I can talking about how money is our god, right? So you know, a lot of people say things like, "Oh, Jesus is the one true God" or something like this, and I'm just thinking to myself, no, right? In this society, in this world, the one true God is money. Money rules everything. You know, I'm right. You know, I'm right. I mean, you just look at your own life. You see how money controls literally everything, right? It controls where you live, how much you can eat. You know, how much entertainment you can have, what kind of opportunities you have. It's so fucking rigged, right? And that just proves how fake our society is. But that's for that video. Let's get on to this one. Now, first of all, for most white and blue collar workers, right? For those of you who don't know, a white collar worker is like a professional. You know, someone who like wears a white shirt. That's where it comes from. Blue collar workers are more manual workers, so those are people that are like plumbers, electricians, although electricians are slightly higher than the other ones. Construction workers, those kinds of people, right? And so the thing is, right? This is the inherent misery, right? First of all, you have to wake up early in the morning, right? Usually very early at like if you're lucky, you get to wake up at like 6 or 7, right? Which is the usual time, but like depending on where you work, what company you're part of, that kind of stuff, it's usually the usual time for waking up is quite early, right? But you know, even then, waking up at like 5, 6, 7 a.m. is not good for your body, even as an adult, right? It's definitely much more bearable than being like a teenager in high school. But like honestly, it's not something you want to be doing every day, right? And then the night before that, you're fucking dreading it, right? And on the weekend, right, you live for the weekend, right? So you know you slave away in your little fucking cubicle or at your desk or whatever you're doing, surrounded by surrounded by, for the most part, normies, right? Although you can have good normies, you can have bad normies. I am generalizing, and I want to try to I want to reduce the amount of times that I do that. But sometimes you need to generalize, right? But you're surrounded by normie co-workers most of the time. I'm not saying they're bad people, but you're surrounded by these people. Um, you have to deal with shitty customers. You have to deal with attitude from managers. You have to deal with kind of the social hierarchy in there, all that kind of stuff, right? But as I said, back to the waking up. So you have to wake up early in the morning. Put on this shitty uniform, right, with the fucking suit and stuff, the ties, those tight ass trousers, and then you have to get on the fucking bus, which is packed, right? I'm telling you, like, most cities are overpopulated like shit, man. The streets are packed, the buses are packed, right? So you get on the bus or a train, and it's always fucking packed, right? I want you guys to do something. After you've finished watching this video, go on YouTube and search up overpacked, what's it called? Packed trains or overcrowded trains in Japan, and you'll see how the guards are literally pushing, ramming the people into the trains, right? They're packed in like fucking sardines, right? And literally, yeah, they are. And so that's how most people get on the way to work, right? So you're usually there for half an hour to an hour on the commute, depending on how far away it is. Most people it's an hour, some people longer than an hour, although that's usually not the case, but some people are like that, right? Some people come from outside the city, from the countryside, that kind of stuff, right? So then you get there, right, at like, it's usually earlier than 9, right? Because the official term is 9 to 5, but it's usually around like 7:30, 8 a.m. That's usually when it starts, right? So you get there, and you have to put on a face, you have to put on a mask, yeah. So you have to smile, you have to be polite, you have to act happy to be there when you're really not, right? And then you've got to make small talk with the normies, right? Now I'm gonna be honest here. When I'm at work, right, a lot of the people I deal with are actually like very decent people that you can actually have a conversation with. A lot of them, but some of them are just no good, But most of them are, pretty decent people to be around and interact with. But most people are not so lucky, right? Now the thing is with this is that you then have to fight a war on multiple fronts, right? So you either have to deal with the customers, deal with the public, right? That this includes if you're like doing service stuff at the desk. So if you're like a cashier or something, or if you're like a fucking typist or whatever, or you're just dealing with the public, right? And they always have a fucking attitude and they think they're better than you, right? Or if you're behind a desk, right, having to fill in these fucking forms and stuff and other things that you don't really care about, right? But if you're having to fill them in, right, all the time, right, then you're under pressure from the managers, from supervisors. Maybe you don't have them in that kind of environment, but you're under pressure to meet these quotas and deadlines. You've got meetings. You have to deal with those bullshit dynamics. You have to fill up a ton of coffee for yourself to keep yourself awake, right? And then all that shit, that pressure, that dead, boring lifestyle just fucking piles on you like a ton of bricks. And I personally believe that the fact that most people live this non-existent life is the reason why people are starting to die earlier, right? Of course, there's a combination of reasons, but those reasons also link in with work, right? So if you think about it, right, after your work day is finished, right, you then have to go back on that fucking train, right, or the bus or whatever, right? Most people don't drive to work. Most people use trains and buses, especially if you're in the city. A lot of people do drive, but most people, the vast majority, don't. But the thing is, you come home, right? You're back on the fucking packed trains or buses, and they are still packed when you're well. That's the rush hour back, right? Everybody's rushing to get home. Now, here again, right? You see you see why this, when you combine all the factors, right, it leads to a shorter lifespan, right? Now, when you're done with work, you're usually fucking exhausted, right? You want to go home and sleep. Your mind is not focused on anything else, right? Because the workday is so exhausting and so long that your mind just wants to go home and sleep. It can't really focus on anything else. So what do? You go to maybe go to a shop or something, get yourself an unhealthy sandwich or meal deal, right? Quickly get on the other bus, go home or walk home or whatever, right? Or if you go to a fast food place, order some shitty stuff there, and just go home, sit in front of the TV, no movement, right? Because you're too tired to walk, too tired to do exercise, you have no energy, that kind of stuff, right? And so you just feast on that shit, right? Now imagine doing this, right? So you're doing this 5 days a week, pretty much, right? You're doing this 5 days a week for 52 weeks, 52 times a year, and you times that by maybe 46 years bare minimum, right? Although retirement ages are being pushed up a lot everywhere nowadays, right? That's going to fuck you up, okay? And the vast majority of people do not have the motivation or the discipline to keep themselves in shape while in these kinds of environments and stuff, right? Now the same thing is true for blue collar workers and stuff, but the thing is with them is that they're usually out in the cold more, and they're usually out battling the elements. They're usually they're more well respected by people because they're actually doing something that's of proper use to society, something that you can physically see. If you didn't have any plumbers, the world would collapse basically. If you didn't have people that were repairing your phone, also the world would collapse, right? That if you didn't have people building buildings, society would collapse, right? So they have a lot more respect, and also they have a lot more physical and practical skills. But the problem with them is that, as I said, they have to battle the elements and they don't get paid as much. I don't think so anyway. That's starting to change now. But still, having to deal with the elements all day long, usually your co-workers are probably going to be of lower quality and shit. Low quality normies. Again, that's an assumption, but you know what I'm trying to say. That's gonna fuck up your body as well, and over many years, it's gonna mess you up, right? Now, there were some things I didn't mention in this video. I'm gonna make a part 2 to this eventually, but I mean, that's basically your life, right? Wake up, right? Make coffee, commute, work, go home, shit, shower, sleep. That's basically life for most people. And quite frankly, this is what you have to do to survive. This is not living, right? This lifestyle is not living, right? This right here is slavery. Now, of course, you can leave your job, right? I mean, as Noam Chomsky said, he said, yeah, you can leave your job, but you're free to starve, basically. So you're not free. You can't do what the fuck you want to do, right? And you see how you have to slave away at these jobs. This is what our entire society is based around. Don't think that just because you're at the top of the corporate ladder or you have a very nice job that you're free. That's not freedom. You're still a fucking slave. Even the manager's a slave. Even the fucking CEO is a slave. Do you think... Also, another thing as well, do you think they give a shit about the common worker? About you or me? They don't give a fuck. As long as they've got... They'll overwork you to the bone. As long as they've got their yacht, with their privileged lifestyle, somewhere in the Mediterranean, right? They're good, right? They don't give a fuck about you. You're just another pair of hands. And another thing as well is that there is no job security, right? You can get chucked out of a company tomorrow like that. If they find someone that's better value, right, they're going to fucking hire them, right? So, I mean, that's another thing as well, right? These companies, you're just disposable to them. So most people don't actually have a motivation to work. There was a movement, I think it was called quiet quitting, and it's more prevalent among young people, but it's basically, and it's spread on fucking TikTok, and I hate TikTok, but I think this trend is a good one. It's basically where people do the bare minimum and then they just go home, right? They don't socialize, they don't interact with others. They just do the bare minimum, keep to themselves, and then go home. I think that's a good idea. I think that's a good way to like a form of passive resistance against society, because quite frankly, there's nothing that we can do in terms of active resistance. There's nothing we can do, right? This system, this society is a slave system. It's designed to keep us as slaves. And quite frankly, the fact that most people don't care or are too apathetic to do anything about it is a sign that this system is hopeless. You can't make change, right? The system is always going to be as it is, as a renegade number one used to say, right? The system is the system. The system is undefeated, and what you can do is change yourself. That's the only fucking thing you can do. Maybe individually you can raise yourself out of this shitty, miserable slave system cycle, but most people can't do it, right? Most people don't have that strength, that intelligence, that intellect, that power, right? So most people are fucked, right? Myself included, right? If this YouTube thing takes off, maybe I can be free, but that's probably not going to happen. And even if it is, it's going to take minimum 3 to 4 years, right? I mean, I'd love to monetize this channel, but it's probably not going to make me enough to live, right? Honestly, it's just, I mean, literally everything is based around, you being a slave in this world, right? The desires, the job market, the social structures. I mean, name it, pretty much, you name it, everything is designed. The consumerism, the government, that kind of stuff, everything is designed for you to be a slave. I mean, what? Honestly, it just sucks, man. And this is what links in with antinatalism as well, right? This is how most people have to live, right? And if you ask most people, oh, would you want to go back and relive that work week? They'll say no. But when you talk to them about having children, they say, oh, life is beautiful. Oh, they'll have a good life. And I'm like, oh, really? Just like you had a good life, yeah? I mean, it's true though, isn't it? It's just these people are so ignorant and so insensitive to the suffering that they cause. It's just so fucked, man. But honestly, I think the solution to this, I'm gonna try and put it in part 2. And I have to say here right now that most people cannot escape the system. It's by design. First of all, they prop up this system. They will fight to defend the matrix, right? Most people anyway, right? And part 2, right? Most people need jobs. Most people can't go their own way, right? Most people can't develop their own systems, right? Even if they can, it's probably not going to take off. I mean, there's a trend of people trying to get into entrepreneurship and, investing in bitcoins, right? Which is basically gambling, right? Gambling on the markets and stuff like that, right? Do you see how desperate people are? Lottery maxing, right? That's another thing, lottery maxing, right? Buying lottery tickets every fucking day or, whatever, just to have some hope of escaping this slavery. And as inflation, right, goes up, right, and as, people's wages are stagnant, that creates something called stagflation. And this problem is going to keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And the unholy trinity of this is overpopulation. So when you combine mass migration to the West with massive birth rates, because I'm telling you, everywhere I go, people are having a ton of kids. And they don't give a shit that the local area, that the city, that the country is overpopulated as fuck. Right? These people, it's like nothing clicks in their head. They walk out onto the streets, right? And they see how overpopulated everything is. The stores, the buses, the trains, everything. And nothing clicks in their head. Oh, maybe I shouldn't bring another child here. Maybe there's not enough room, right? You see the traffic jams every morning, right? You see that, and that stops you getting to work on time. That's another thing as well. Traffic jams interrupting you. All these little things are caused by overpopulation. Not enough spaces in schools, not enough spaces in hospitals. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm going to make a video ranting about overpopulation. So stay tuned for that. But other than that, thanks for listening. If you have until now, please consider leaving a like and a subscribe. Other than that, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.